What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle for the next episode of the Nerd Castle podcast. Today, we are hanging out with Gaming FTL. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm really good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. It's like a nice little... It's almost summer. I mean, summer's almost here. It's weird how fast it creeps up on us. Summer's almost here. It's a warm day. Figure we sit down and have a little bit of podcast time. I like to start out with the hard questions, man. I like to start with the hard questions.
I'm ready.
Like, what's your favorite color? This is a very important thing.
Now, look. I understand this is very important, but I'm just one of those who's just like, no, none of that. That's a kid's question. I'm sorry to insult all of the kids out there, but I'm
no
a man.
Colors?
I am a multifaceted person,
okay.
And therefore, any color that's in front of me, and I go, that's nice. That's my favorite color.
You want to know what the normal answer to that question is? It's always red or blue. Always red or blue.
I was going to say green.
Green? Oh, hey, there we go. We match up. I like green too.
Yeah.
See? And like, I think that's my second green in a row now from Guess. I think that's my second green in a row. Green's making a comeback, man. It's making a comeback. It's a color nobody appreciates, but it's the color of Ninja Turtles, and everybody loves Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, man. Underdog in the polls.
That's what did it for me. I'm like, what's my favorite color? Green, I think, because Ninja Turtles are dope. And that's what it's been ever since I was a little kid, just going with Ninja Turtles. So what kind of stuff are you doing on your channel right now, man? What kind of games are you playing at the moment? What are you getting down with?
Oh, man. You and I both really enjoying Birthdays, the beginning. That is a surprisingly good game. It's chill. It's cute. And everyone's enjoying it. I didn't expect people to really dig it the way they did, but it's good that everyone's just kind of getting into it and talking about dinosaurs they like in the comments and stuff.
That's the big part, dude, is when you go on YouTube, there are certain fundamental rules that always seem to apply for doing like successful YouTube videos, like YouTube videos that do well. It's always like, are there dinosaurs? If no, are there zombies? If no, is there survival and crafting? And you just keep working your way down the list, and that's just how you win at YouTube. But I agree, Birthdays is...
Just writing a new design document for a game.
Yeah?
Yeah. Taking that list from you and just writing that down.
So it's got to be a dinosaur zombie crossover with crafting. Maybe we can keep it kind of Minecrafty so that you also build with blocks. Get a little bit of Roblox action in there. Maybe make it multiplayer enabled with like modding support. Dude, we've already got the game. It's done. We're finished. Now we just
need $1 million.
Yeah, right that's it. We just made money, man. We just made money right here in this podcast. So what do you like? What are you liking best about Birthdays?
I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it. I'm probably gonna go with the art. And just the sitting back and watching things happen. How about you?
I think that's probably the same thing for me. I think realistically the reason why I like Birthdays is that it's a really, really understated game. Like, it's an easy game to watch a video of and be like, I don't understand why people are super into this. You don't seem like you do anything. Because, like, I would agree with you. A huge portion of the game is just sitting there waiting for stuff to happen. But at the same time... That's kind of what I like about it. It's a really good hands-off, like, relaxation game. Like, you play it at, like, 2:30 in the morning, and then you go to bed right afterwards. You're not going to be all hyped up. Like, right now I'm playing a lot of PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. I'm playing a lot of stuff like that. And if I play that right before bed, I'm too hyped. You know, I get excited about the win, and it's a game where busy stuff is happening. It keeps your mind real active. With Birthdays, it's a game you can sit there, and it's quiet, and you're just moving blocks around, and it's got like those relaxing little UI noises and stuff when you're doing things. And it's just, it's a fantastic little game.
The terrain moving, super simple, apart from the awful, awful controls.
The controls are somewhat abysmal. I couldn't do it with the PC. I tried the PC controls for a little bit, and then I was like, it appears to me that this is very obviously designed for a controller.
But yeah.
Like, I still... Yeah, it's a great game. I mean, it's a really cool game. I felt bad for some of the people because I plugged it really hard on my channel. I was like, this game is the shit! And I was really excited about it. But then what ended up happening is, like, I guess there was, like, a bug when it released or whatever, so that, like, a big portion of people with, like, a certain chipset or something like that, they could only run it at, like, 5 frames per second. And then I was like, gross. Oh, no. And so I looked at the Steam reviews the day that it came out, because I was like, all right, let's see how the game's doing. You know, I plugged this on my channel. I'm sure it's doing well right now. And its reviews were like, it was like on 50% on Steam, and I was like, oh no, what went wrong? And so I was like, maybe people just didn't like get what the game was all about. I don't know what happened here. And I started going through the reviews, and it was all bugs and tech support. Like, people liked the game, but they just couldn't play it because apparently it disagreed with their chipset. And I was like, oh, that sucks, man, because it really is a good game. That's a bummer.
It's
that
a
like
shame.
it got panned a little bit. So when you went through the first time, did you go after like dinosaurs first? I made a beeline for dinosaurs the second I started playing because that's what I wanted to find.
Oh, 100%. I didn't even realize, because I'm not like a paleontologist or a dinosaur historian. But I just went straight for dinosaurs, and I was so surprised when a spider turned up, and I was like, hang on, that can't be right. But apparently, like, what was it? Some kind of proto-scorpion was the first land creature or something? Am I right?
I think that, it comes from the little trilobites that are in the ocean. I think that was the first jump that I got too, because I was the same way, where I was working my way down the evolutionary chart, and I was like, all right, so we've got like some plants, and like, it's hard to get excited about plants. Plants are a little bit understated as far as paleontology goes. Like, there's a lot of guys out there that do like archaeobotany and stuff like that. Was never my thing. I don't know if you know this, but I went to school for paleontology. So
we had a quick chat about paleontology and how it is not what people think it is.
Yeah, and everybody thinks you're doing like Indiana Jones stuff and like that. And I was like, dude, a surprising portion of what you do in college as a paleontologist is just looking at old leaves that are like imprints on like a rock that somebody found somewhere. And you'd be like, well, the vein pattern means that it's part of this genus. And it's like, you don't get to the good stuff for a long time. And so I think birthdays was the same way, where like you have that after you get your lakes in, you start getting the grasses and whatnot, and then you get like that explosion of plant life. You start getting trees, and you start being like, well, but where are the animals at? Like, I've got like this jellyfish over here, but he doesn't do much. And then I got this trilobite thing over here sucking up scum off the bottom of the ocean. But like, when do I get the cool stuff with like the spikes and the scales and the teeth and the hunting and, you know, the roaring? And yeah, I got the spider first, and I was actually more excited about a spider than I thought I would be. Not a big spider fan, but anything that was like terrestrial and walking around, I was like, oh, good. We've made the jump. That can't be all bad. We've done something right, because we've gone from the ocean to the land. Are you doing anything else on the side with birthdays, or like, are you trying to, so I don't know how far you've covered birthdays so far. Like, how far in are you?
I am up to Homo erectus, which is the best bit, obviously, for the dick jokes.
Obviously.
Very mature. But no, I've just been going through the kind of campaign thingy.
Okay.
And I've gotten to there so far. And probably tomorrow I'm recording and trying to get those buildings built, you know, with the like columns and all that stuff that the ancient humans make.
They take over pretty quickly. I got to like the tribal guys, and it was just like, they found like this little, I had a river valley that came down out of a mountain, and it was just houses all down along the side. I was like, man, humanity shows up and we just start bulldozing that nature. The second we get here, you got dinosaurs walking around, and like, they took this entire river and were just like, houses, like all the way down the river. And then I got the classical guys. Yeah, the classical guys live up on the mountain with all the columns and the Roman stuff. And then down by the ocean is where all my medieval guys are. And then I haven't used the Seed of Life yet to go up to like modern people or whatever, but it's pretty cool watching the whole process unfold. And I think it's a good thing. There's not enough games out there that are like oddly educational at the same time. Like, that's a game that definitely stimulates people's interest. Like, if they aren't super into archaeology or paleontology or anything like that, you start working your way down the chain. And honestly,
you start thinking about it.
Yeah, if I think if their evolutionary biology is something that they haven't like learned, or it's not something they've studied, it piques the interest. Like, it had me looking around. Like, I got a couple creatures in there where I was like, I got to go to Wikipedia on this one. I can't not know what this is. I went to school for this, and now I don't know what this thing is that just popped up. And it's an interesting little game like that. I mean, I think it gets the juices flowing for kind of knowledge, and it makes it fun and accessible. Yeah,
it's kind of a really cool thing that, you know, all media can do, but like games especially engage you in a special way, and then they kind of tease this little thing like archaeology, and then you might be interested in playing the game, but then for those extra people who are like, oh, I'm really into this, I didn't know this was a thing, is this actually a real animal? And then you Wikipedia, and then this whole tangential learning thing kind of sets people on paths that they enjoy, which is kind of the best part of it, especially of that game. I can't wait to hear about all the famous archaeologists. Is that a thing that happens? Famous archaeologists?
There are some guys, like there's some, I mean, there are famous paleontologists and there are famous like archaeologists. With the paleontologists, they're mostly like in the dinosaur arena, though. That's where you get like the guys that get famous for, if you find a dinosaur nowadays, it's kind of a big deal.
Have you seen Time Team?
I have not.
Oh, I might just be a British thing because it's all about old men who wear like now fashionable but previously unfashionable jumpers.
So is it like a TV drama, or is it like what kind of show is it?
It's not documentary. Just kind of, they follow these archaeologists around, and they go to dig sites, and they just present the stuff that they dig up, and they go, "Oh, that was actually a really interesting piece of pipe that they dug up from this previous Roman encampment," and weirdly interesting. It was a good show. I don't know if it's still going.
See, that's one of those things. Like over here in the States, we don't
presented by Blackadder.
See, there's the catch.
Forget his name, but you know,
we don't get well. It's kind of weird. Like here in the States, everything is like entertainment laced. Like I don't know if over in the UK it's the same way, but like I spent a lot of time with Enter Elysium and Avic, and it's kind of interesting to see like the cultural differences between, you know, because we're very related cultures, but at the same time they're like divergent paths. Everything in the United States is marketed for mass consumption and like lowest common denominator. So we have stuff like Cupcake Wars, and just like if they can inject drama into something and force people to watch it, that's what they do. Like they've ruined the History Channel, they've ruined Discovery Network, and it's just like we don't get a whole lot. Like PBS, I think, is like the last holdout over here that still has like good entertainment like that, where it's like archaeology or you're like learning something while you're watching it. And at this point, everything's turned into like Ice Road Truckers and like weird shows about guys that live in the bayou for some reason. I don't know why.
Cupcake Wars sounds like a really intense version of the British Bake Off.
My wife, oh my God. Is that the one with Mary Berry?
Yeah.
Oh my God. My
Not
wife.
Anymore. There's drama.
Oh,
very,
they added
very low, subtle drama. People moving between TV channels and stuff. Oh, it's intense. Someone dropped a cake once.
Oh no. Actually, my wife binge watches that show. She loves that show. And actually, I like it too. The reason why I like it is because you guys with your baking show, you've gotten rid of drama. Like our shows always have to like inject that. Like there's always like some conflict going on. I'm like, well, why can't we just have a show where people enjoy baking and they're nice and they're pleasant and they help each other? If one person's like having trouble with their pie or whatever, another person will be like, I'll come help you. And I'll be like, yeah, in an American show, that would never happen. He'd be like, I slap your pie on the floor. Like, it's just like, come on.
Just end up having literal food fights. Yeah.
More or less.
That's not a video game. Are we allowed? Is this allowed on YouTube to not talk about video games?
I think it's fine. I mean, honestly, this podcast goes all over the place. This podcast has gone in directions that I'm just like, at the end of the 30 minutes, sometimes I'm just like, I don't know where we're at right now. But we haven't talked about gaming for like 20 minutes. We're off on some weird tangent about something. I don't know. It's fine. So if we get off track, nobody's really going to mind that much. So are you doing anything else other than birthdays on your channel? Like, you got any other series running right now that you're really liking?
At the moment, I'm kind of in between stuff. I just finished off Slime Rancher with the newest update. That's a really adorable game. What do I release on my channel?
It's fine, man. I forget half the time, too. I sign off on my stream every now and again, and I'm like, yeah, if you want to catch me on YouTube, I'm doing the... What am I playing right now? Let me open up my dashboard real fast. Slime Rancher is cool. So, like, with the last time I played it was with the Slime Science update. So is there a new update since that one?
Yeah, there was one that was after that, and it was basically all about there was a bunch of kind of cosmetic stuff and a little bit of new area, but it was quite small comparatively.
You know, and it's one of those games.
And some story stuff. Yeah.
Oh, really? They put in story stuff?
Yeah, it's not like a main part of the game, but you know those emails you get? There's stuff like that, and there's little holograms around that tell you a story of the person who used to live there. It's just a cute game that got even cuter because now there's characters in it.
Well, I mean, it's true that you can't go wrong with like easily accessible. Like, I think the big thing with targeting games nowadays is that you really got to make kind of a concrete decision. And with something like Slime Rancher, it's nice because the complication is there for people that want to do like the production line stuff and everything like that with like the plort production. So that'll get like a lot of the adult people into it and a lot of the older adolescents into it. And at the same time, it's very like cutesy and kind of Nintendo-like. Like, it's very much a game that I could see Nintendo producing, where it's targeted at kids too, and so it hits everything, which is, I think, the secret to its popularity is that, like, no matter your age group or whatever, that game has something for you when you go in.
It's very wide appeal.
Yeah, it did a great job. I would say the same thing.
And it also kind of appeals to YouTubers as well. I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah. That's like a... I think I was talking about, like, Blitzkriegler the other day with that one. And, like, it's weird how YouTube now has factored into the marketing of games. Like, you really, as a developer, you have to take that into consideration nowadays. You should see, like, can this get promoted through YouTube, through people with, like, millions and millions of followers and whatnot? Because I've seen great games, and they just fall by the wayside because the developers don't understand, like, the PR branch of it. Or some things just aren't playable on YouTube. Like, some games are really great. You can play them in single player, you can play them in multiplayer, and people will like them. But they don't make for good videos. And there's a weird line right there that can sometimes be a little bit difficult to lock down, especially from, like, our end. I know that, like, YouTubers, we're constantly looking for things that are YouTube friendly. They work on YouTube. Like, I'll check something, I'll go down the list, and because I'm an indie showcase channel, I can show off weird little niche titles and stuff like that and not get myself into too much trouble as far as, like, reception goes and everything. But at the same time, you do have to take that into, like, some things like, you know, low poly, like, if you've got, like, ASCII roguelikes and stuff, there's some amazing ASCII roguelikes out there, but you can't YouTube them, really. Like, they're not great YouTube fodder. Like, it's like, like, people just, they need a little bit more visual stimulus. They need a little bit more, like, bang and explosion and flash, you know what I mean?
I feel like... Yeah, you're right. And the genre that has the biggest problem is puzzle games. Like, you can't just sit there and go, I've done the match 3 for 10 minutes. It's a real shame because there are some really amazing puzzle games out there. Like, what's a new one? Cosmic Express. That's a super fun, difficult, but ultimately very difficult to YouTube game because it takes a very long time to do one puzzle, and because sometimes it's really, really hard, and it just didn't flow right for a video. It's really a massive shame because it's such a fun game. But if someone figures out a way to make a video of that kind of game, then perfect. But
yeah, I would assume something like that. I mean, there's a big ASMR community on YouTube. Like, those are very popular videos. And so, like, with the quiet talking and everything else like that, I think if somebody made a channel like that, I think I saw one a while back. There was a lady, I can't remember her name now, a girl who was doing puzzle games on her channel. But when she would, it was an interesting angle on YouTubing because while she was doing the videos, more or less, she would just, like, whisper the whole time. Like, it was like having, like, a very private conversation with somebody, like, in a very quiet cafe while she worked on a puzzle quietly. And I was like, I could definitely see the appeal here. Like, this is definitely something that I think, like, a select audience would watch and consume because it's very relaxing watching her work on whatever this puzzle is in this game that she's playing. And while at the same time she's having a very low volume, very low-key conversation with you about, like, almost nothing, just like her day-to-day. And I could see that actually hooking somebody, but that was years ago when I saw that channel. And that's one of the few situations where with puzzle games, I think it might work. I think the other genre that has trouble are platformers. Platformers have trouble because it's hard to break away from the crowd. Like, there's so many platformers out there right now that are using Super Nintendo graphics, 16-bit type stuff, and it's just very difficult to distinguish yourself because there's so many of them. And it's not that you can't do commentary for them, it's just that one platformer bleeds into the next. I mean, it is what it is. It's jumping. I mean, unless you spice it up a little bit, what do you do?
Unless it's like Geometry Wars, not Geometry Wars, Geometry Dash. I see a lot of people playing Geometry Dash, but that's not quite the same. It's like an auto runner, isn't it? Instead of a platformer.
Let me take a look. I don't remember this game. Let me see what's going on with this.
It's like it pitches itself as like the hardest game, the hardest platformer. You've got to have perfect timing to jump over the spikes, and then if you die, you go right back to the beginning. and then there's the whole bunch of like themed new levels and stuff like that. You've got to get around.
I'm
Really
watching
difficult
gameplay
stuff.
of it right now, and it seems like the kind of game that would rapidly drive me crazy. Like, everybody else loves Super Meat Boy, and I was just like, I am so irritated with this game right now. I got like a certain amount of levels in, and I was just like, I gotta stop. My blood pressure's too high. The level of precision that's required in order to do the thing that they want me to do here, I lack the skills for it. I just can't
I
do
know
it.
exactly what you mean. I have that game on like PS4, PC, like several handheld consoles, all over the place, like 360. But I've never gotten beyond a certain stage.
Yeah.
It's yeah, one of those things.
Yeah, it's a tough one to it's a real tough one to brand games like that. Getting back to what we were saying earlier, it's just like there are certain genres that are just dead zones for YouTubers where for me, I absolutely love Super Nintendo themed like pixel art platformers. They're great. Like I really liked Eagle Island. I liked Rogue Legacy. Like I like all these games, but I think that's the big issue, especially with Metroidvanias too, which are very popular right now, is that they all tend to
came out recently.
Yeah, it was that one from Adult Swim, if I recall correctly. Dead Cells, I think it was. I haven't had a chance to get any.
Everyone's like, "Oh my god, amazing!" And I'm just looking at it like, "Oh, I could play that in my free time if I ever had any."
Yeah,
but I can't YouTube it.
I don't know what it is about Metroidvanias. Metroidvanias are also in the same vein, very, very difficult to do YouTube content on because the general interest just doesn't seem to be there. Like the people that want to play a Metroidvania, they want to play it. They don't want to watch it because Metroidvanias tend to have a large exploratory aspect or a large discovery aspect to them, and they don't want to ruin it for themselves. And it's hard to distinguish how that differentiates from, let's say, something like Kindergarten. I don't know if you had a chance to play Kindergarten.
I didn't. I wish I did.
Yeah, Kindergarten is a game where it's all exploration, and it's actually, if you really think about it, it's a game about sequences and what sequence of events leads to the result that you want at the end of the day. And people watch that, they loved that, but they won't watch something else that has kind of an exploratory aspect to it too. It's very confusing sometimes. It's a vexing situation to be in as a YouTuber when you look at like receptions between games. It's curious, and I'm not an expert at it. There's some guys out there that are really good at it though. Just killing it on YouTube because they know it gets watched.
Yeah, I know. There's quite a few, I guess you could call them experts at just looking at a game and going, I can play that and do well with it, sort of thing. It's a skill.
It is. It really is.
I feel like, especially for the whole, from a development point of view, streamers kind of free up the kind of both the audience and the kind of game you can stream, because you don't have to edit it and look up like what's going to appeal. Because if you've got the audience that's into you streaming Metroidvanias, then like you can just spend hours playing through that one game. And I don't really understand the difference, but it's like a format thing where in video a platformer just wouldn't work, but streaming that sort of thing is kind of perfect, because I've seen a lot of really cool streamers play Hollow Knight. That looks really cool. Yeah, I played a little bit of it and then I'm like, another Metroidvania I can't make a video of. But yeah,
I think I got 3 or 4 hours into Hollow Knight, and I was really surprised with how well they did with that game. It's a genre that's tough to break into because you've got, like, when you do a Metroidvania, you've got, like, the titans, like the games that are just so good and so polished and so refined that going up against them at this point is very difficult with your game coming out smelling good. And so, like, when you've got games like Ori and the Blind Forest sucking all the oxygen out of the room, where it's just such a perfectly executed Metroidvania platformer, how do you make a platformer and a Metroidvania that gets people's attention after something like Ori? Because Ori was more or less, it sets the bar as far as those games are concerned, or other games that are very similar, like Rogue Legacy, a very picture-perfect Metroidvania roguelite. Like, it's hard to compete with that. And when you get, I'll tell my audience now, I get like a dozen platformer roguelite Metroidvanias a week. I get so many of them. They all bleed together. And so when you take a chance on something like Hollow Knight and it comes out, and you're like, wow, this actually stands up to the test. Like, this game competes with a lot of the best games in the genre. That's saying something, considering the sheer volume of these games that just like release on a monthly basis. Like, you can tell people love them because they keep making them, but it's not the format for YouTube for whatever reason. But I agree with you with streaming. Streaming is kind of different. I stream a couple times a week, and streaming, it's odd how you can play almost anything on stream, and tons of people will come out just to like watch, and it's fine. Like, the people that don't like it will bail. Yeah, and they'll come out and they'll watch, and if they don't like the game, they'll bail after like 20 minutes. But the people who do like it might come in and stay for longer that didn't like the last thing that you were doing. And I think it's something about streaming, something about the live show, where the audience is there. You've got, like, you know, however many people all talking to each other and hyping each other up about the stream. I think it develops kind of an ambiance in the air that makes it easier to sell content. Whereas with YouTube, you've got these static comments down below, and it's kind of pre-recorded and everything like that. And I think it loses a little bit of the buzz almost that streaming can kind of imbue into that digital format. It's kind of like I said previously, it's a curious thing to consider. So anybody thinking about getting into like digital online media and whatnot, these are the questions you're going to have to ask yourself when you like do stuff, and just the weird things you notice after doing it for a while. Like, how long have you been a YouTuber?
Oh, God. Good question. Since 2011.
Okay, so you've been doing it longer than I have. I started in December of 2012, and it has just been, it's crazy. Like, do you have the same problem I have where when people ask you, like, what you do, like, you're like, at this point, I just tell people that, like, I work in PR for video games. It's just easier. I promote video games. I don't know what else to tell you, because whenever I tell them what I actually do, they seem to get confused and be like, wait, that's a job? What?
I really have to size up the person and decide, am I just going to have the really difficult conversation of trying to defend my life choices here? Or are they just going to go, oh, that's cool? And then I have to go, oh, so what do you do? And they're like, I'm an accountant. I'm like, oh, cool. I bet you have money.
And you're like, that's cool. Accounting is fun.
Oh, yeah.
Do you like accounting? You gotta like let the sentence go upwards, kind of. Just let them know there's a question there. Be like, hey, it's fine, man. If you don't want to talk about your job and you hate your job, we don't have to talk about it right now, but you asked me what I do. So now politeness dictates that I gotta ask you what you do. It's kind of like talking about the weather. You're like, oh, it's raining today. Then I have to agree with you and be like, indeed, it is raining today. Polite conversation accomplished.
Fortunately, I'm on the other side of the world, so I can disagree with you.
That's true.
Night.
It's nighttime.
That's all I can tell you.
The sun is blazing right now. Just be glad you're not here. Just be glad you're not here, because it is super warm here today. It is out there. I just stay inside. We don't even go outside anymore. It gets out to like 115, 120 out here Fahrenheit. I don't know what that would be in Celsius because I'm bad at math.
I don't know what that means.
It's got to be bad. I'm gonna Google foo it for you here. Let's go.
100 is like 35 degrees, I think.
It's 48 C.
Holy crap!
It's bad. It's real. It's not that hot today.
That's like
today
proper
it's like
dinosaur temperature.
Yeah, let's see. It's 35 C right now. It's 35 C right now. It's right on the edge of where it's just unpleasant enough to not go outside for the day. But if you have to do something, you can. Any hotter, and it's just like, let's just pretend like the world doesn't exist today. We're gonna stay inside Netflix.
I think if it got to that temperature in England, we would probably call it a world record. Like, hottest day since records began is what they always say, because we have gradually every year for global warming reasons been getting at least one of those a year. It's getting warmer here. I think the warmest it's been so far is probably 25, so about like 90 for you.
I just Googled it. The hottest day on record in London. So this is just for London. I know the UK is a big place, but the hottest temperature ever recorded in the UK, or I'm sorry, in London, was 37.4 C. And that was a little bit ago. It was at Heathrow that they did it. And so that's pretty rough, though. That's pretty hot. Like, I don't think of England as being that warm. I really sincerely don't. I think of you guys having, like, those nice Mediterranean temperature. You got that nice, the English weather. It's nice and, like, Mediterranean's not the right word. It's nice and overcast all the time. I love overcast. It's one of my favorite weathers. And so
it's nice. It makes us grumpy, but also we get to stay inside and look out at, like, the nice trees and stuff. And also it means, hottest day in summer doesn't get that hot, and coldest day in winter still means you can go outside and not die. So like, but we get extremes, but they're not extreme enough to do any damage. The worst thing that happens here in England is flooding. We get serious flooding in some parts of the country. That's probably it. We don't have earthquakes. We don't have hurricanes. None of that.
So when it floods in England, right? I got to see if this is just a cultural thing. It floods where I live too. People seem kind of nonchalant about it when it floods where I'm at. Like, a part of town will be like flooded and under like 5 feet of water. And every single time, there will be people on jet skis just cruising around town. Just be like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, dude, you're in the middle of a catastrophe right now, riding a jet ski, having fun. Don't you feel at least the smallest part guilty at the moment? Nah, not even slightly.
No, I wouldn't. I think that might be a bit of a cultural difference. We either just get really, really irate about it because, I don't know, something about flood defenses not being good, or we're just like, get out the boat and the sandbags. It's that time of year.
Yeah, sandbagging is never fun. I had to do that at my last apartment because we had a flood coming in. You got to sandbag up the front door. You got to sandbag up the back door. And it's like, lifting sandbags all day. Although it is kind of cool because the churches where I live, like, they'll have like all the mosques and all the churches and all the temples and whatnot. They have like a little, I don't even know what to call it. It's like a little society or something for sandbagging. It's like the Sandbagging Society, where like all the churches get together and there's
all
like
the
this
sandbag enthusiasts come out to play.
Yeah, this is like Christmas for them. And so we have like a baseball field, and there'll be like 100 people there from all the churches and mosques and temples in the area, and they'll just have sandbags like stacked to the sky, and they'll be like, come get your sandbags, and they're so like excited and happy about it. And I'm like, if I wasn't, you know, if I was a little more cynical, I feel at least a little bit like you're happy this is happening. Like, I don't want to read too far into it, but you're a little too enthusiastic about giving me sandbags when my house is under threat of flooding. I don't know, maybe be a little bit more somber. Just a tiny bit. I realize it's exciting for you, but, you know.
They like sandbags, man.
Yeah, that's kind of a niche hobby, though. Sandbagging. How does one get into that? Like, where does that start? Like, in childhood, you just played in the sandbox too much? Or, like, do you go to the beach a lot when you were a kid? I don't understand how that hobby develops.
You go to the beach and you're like, this is too spread out. It's everywhere. Anakin Skywalker was a sandbagger, I tell you that. He was like, it gets everywhere. Sand, ugh. But no, in a bag, nice and contained. You can, you can flop it about. You can use it for flood defense. It's fun for all the family.
Fun for all the family, much like the Nerd Castle podcast, which we're coming up on the end of. Today we're hanging out with Gaming FTL. Dude, we killed 30 minutes, lickety split. We killed that super quick.
Nice. Time flies.
It does. But yeah, everybody check out his channel. If you want to go ahead, actually tell him where everybody can find you right now, so it's nice there and on camera.
YouTube.com/GamingFTL. You can find Birthday at the Beginning. You can find Slime Rancher. And basically... Clone Drone, The Danger Zone as well. That's a good game. My channel's about creativity and creating a creative community of people who enjoy making things with and in games, and also just making fun Let's Plays. But that's the thrust of it as well.
Cool.
I think.
Well, everybody go check him out. I'll have that link for you down below the video when this goes live. Other than that, we will see you next month for another Nerd Castle podcast. It's been a ton of fun. We'll both see you later.
Thanks
yeah.
for having me. See ya.